was mainly done through the character who played the victim. The way I did this was by dressing him in clothes that were contemporary and stuff that people in our audience range would notice and identify with. The victim was also played by a male who was aged 19. This age is pretty much in the middle of our target audience range, so he would be somebody who people would be able to identify with and identify with the things that are happening to him. An example of this is the section of the thriller where the victim is getting agitated after finding the note with the time on it. Due to the clever mise-en-scène used in the clothing and by the age of the victim, people in my target audience would be able to identify with him and sympathise with what's happening to him. They would almost be able to put themselves in his shoes and sympathise with that. Another way I attracted my audience was with the locations that I used and the actions that were played out in them. For example, I used 2 normal everyday houses and a field when I filmed my thriller. These are all places where people have been or seen before. Everybody has been in a field and in a house, so these are very familiar places that they could identify with when watching the thriller. Also, the things that were done in these places in relation to the everyday activities, things like strolling through a field or coming home to make a cup of tea. These are all things that people are familiar with, so it will get them more into it as they watch, as these are all things they would generally do. What have you learnt about technologies from the process of constructing this product? One thing I have learnt about technologies in the construction of this thriller is a whole new set of editing techniques. I used a much different set of editing techniques in this thriller production to what I normally use when editing other videos. Of course, I still use the standard tools to cut up clips into various sizes and adding in things such as audio. However, I learned a new set of techniques in making the flashback section of my video. I learned how to use the time remapping tool, which I used when speeding up the clock. I learned how to add in effects such as additive flashes and how to blur clips, which is what I used in the flashback section to create a real flashback feel. A further thing that I learned how to do was how to manage and direct a whole production on my own. I learned good skills on how to plan my work and how to go about doing it all. I also learned a few new techniques when I was filming my production. One example of this is I learned how to film a shot where one object is perfectly in focus and the rest is completely out of focus. I use this in the section of my extract where the killer is pointing the gun at the victim. In this, the gun is completely in focus and his face is blurred so you cannot identify him. This was done to add a more mysterious effect to the whole thriller.